Okay, so here we go, everybody.
Okay, good morning, everyone. This is a meeting of the 95 Lawrence Road Task Force Evaluation Committee. It's being recorded. It's on Zoom, and we are all here. Everybody is present. Our agenda item today begins with any more reports on the reference calls?
Yes.
Okay, Jan?
Yeah, I had my third for TCB. This was a call out to Northampton in a massive development, as it turns out. Started small, kept adding and adding to it, called Village Hill 15 years ago. And they chose community builders because the local group that bid, and there were only 2 bids, was not big enough to do the project. And so that's why they went to the bigger group, and they thought that they had a creative plan for the site. They did it in the time frame. They did a good job. They've used them again. Could they communicate better? Yes, but so could everybody. They engaged with the abutters before permitting, but the permitting, again, was not a 40B. They had something that they called a 40R, which pays the town. I don't know. Anyway, it was something different, and that smoothed the way through the whole process for the zoning. This particular man that I spoke with is the Director of Planning and Sustainability for the city of Northampton. And he said they were a junior partner in the project. And so they did have some input, but they would like to have had more. The management is really, really good. Let's see, there was CPA money that went into it and a block grant, plus they helped community builders get a Mass Works grant for it. And they did hire them again, so they would hire them again. And the thing that he added to this was, why on earth are you calling me when there's a Provincetown project that should have been referenced? So that's what I heard from Northampton.
It could make sense to call Province Landings, with all these questions too. So,
I mean, but that was what his comment was. So I said, they picked you as a reference, so here you are. But anyway, so that completed the 3 I did.
any questions for Jan? Okay, thank you so much for getting that done before you go away, Jan. Olga,
Jan,
go ahead.
Want to speak, Harry?
well, go ahead, Olga.
No, I have 3 reports to make. I'll begin with Greg Bielecki, who was one of the references listed yesterday, or the day before. I gave you something that wasn't listed. He's currently a real estate lawyer, but he has been in state government, this reference person. And he said just a handful of developers have the capacity that POA has. They have many years of experience, they're financially sound, and a great reputation. Now, I was calling him about Temple Landing in New Bedford and Clarendon Hill in Somerville. Temple Landing is 173 units, and his role was as Secretary of Housing and Economic Development for the state. I believe this was in the Governor Patrick regime. And he was the one who gave the funding to POA. So it's not as if he was the developer. On the project, he said the mayor of New Bedford was very happy with the result. And what Greg also said is he feels they know how to do physical design that creates less social problems. And I queried him a little more on that. And he says they do community building. Let's see. I asked if he meant social work in their capacity to do that kind of management. No, the physical design he liked. And he acknowledged that Wellfleet's situation is not urban, but said it was much cheaper to build fewer buildings. And a butter and city boards were not relevant because this was a development that already existed and it was at high risk of insolvency. And I think POA has been known for that on the other project, Tory Woods, I talked about. Clarendon Hill in Somerville is a 216 units, and he's now working, Greg is now a private developer, and he said that they are co-developers with POA responsible for different parts of a very large site, and they have no concerns about working separately from POA, that he has confidence that it will all work out, achieving a common goal in Somerville. POA is does professional performance at the highest level. Then, let's see. I don't know if you have questions on that, anybody. Then I talked with Daniel Fortier at the town planner of Dennis regarding Melpet Farms, which is 27 townhouses, which I guess we've seen, all affordable. And POA partnered with Hack, and they were, he said, the most responsive bidder. He couldn't remember who the contractor was, but the contractor kept close to the schedule, even though they had a very challenging wet summer. The drainage, stormwater washed the place out 3 times, and yet they got through, on schedule. He said their financial analysis was more than complete. No issues with the butters, except for, this is a horse farm next door, and they had a lot of complaints from the owner of the horse farm, who thought these tenants would be a risk to her property and she would kind of sabotage, but POA stepped in to do more than its part to keep her at bay. Like, I think they put in more fencing that pleased her and so forth. And then he compared Melpet with Dennis Commons, a private development, which, because of septic issues and locating the septic, it's very far back from the main road, and residents didn't have good access to the street. And he said Melpet was better maintained. This Dennis Commons had no on-site manager until now, which they really needed. Let's see, Melpet has an on-site office and meeting room, and there is a real presence of management there. No problem with their performance. Renters were very happy. And some of this he found out unsolicited, just casual conversation in town. They had problems with the engineering department in their own town because of locating a crosswalk, but it all got worked out. Any questions on that? Then another person was an administrator at the Boston Housing Authority. She just wrote back to me saying, I can't talk to you this morning, which, was the first time she got back to me. She's available this afternoon. So I'll read you what she wrote in an email. Hi, Olga. Sorry, I'm sorry to get to this. Sorry, I'm just getting to this and your call. I'm available to talk this afternoon, though my schedule is a bit tight right now. In case you need it sooner, or this will suffice, just let me put a few notes in writing to you now. POA has been a reliable, innovative, professional, and sophisticated development partner with us. They have excellent staff, they understand public sector values and decision-making, and they are deeply experienced at getting affordable housing projects funded and built. At Whittier, and this is flat 9 at Whittier, it's a Boston project, which I think is, we were told 172 units in Roxbury. At Whittier, we have had our challenges, delays and cost impacts, primarily due to COVID and the overall construction environment right now. But I would not pin these issues on POA and would say that they have pivoted well in the face of these challenges. The project looks fantastic, and residents that we have brought back so far are very happy as we enter the final phase. Kate Bennett. So that's my report.
All sounds good.
Yeah. Are you willing to give a call this afternoon, Olga, and just follow up? A little bit?
Well, this is for a 172 unit project under development. I'm happy to call again if you think so. And there is one person who I didn't have a phone number for. I emailed, he hasn't gotten back to me. And that's Alan Isbitz of Affordable Housing Committee, chairman in Mashpee. So if you want, I'll call her in person.
So, I mean, I think, you know, what you've gotten from all three it's very useful how people feel. Want more? We good?
No,
Yeah, I think
I think it's good enough.
yeah, no, I think it's more than good.
They're all good developers.
Yeah, great. Any more questions from Olga? For Olga? Okay, well, good work, everybody, on that, for sure.
Elaine,
Yes,
Jan raised with me before we started the meeting the fact that she is going to be unavailable for, I guess, more than a couple weeks, if I've got that
2.5,
correct.
2.5.
Weeks, and wondered whether it was appropriate if she expressed her overall opinion based on what we have in front of us so far. And I said, well, we should probably do that as part of the open meeting. So I asked her to wait until now to raise that issue. So that we might discuss that perhaps.
yeah, I think after we finish here,
Yeah.
Kathleen's ratings for TCB, Kathleen, we did get all the way through that, but we're waiting to hear yours, and then we'll share what everybody else did, and then we can certainly talk about what Jan has asked about, for sure.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You don't want to come in from the riverboat? I bet they have that internet cafe.
Well, I'm sure they do, but the time difference
I
and everything else,
understand.
Elaine,
Yeah.
and I couldn't do it either, as I mentioned to Harry. I could do it publicly because I've made my decision. I've really looked at everything again, not as thoroughly as Kathleen perhaps, but I have, and I could either do it.
And don't use me.
I can do it as, in a meeting, or if you think that would prejudice something or another of your future discussions, I could write it down and put it in your mailbox or something on my way to the airport. So.
No, I think the open meeting is the appropriate place to do it. So we'll
agree.
finish with the evaluations, and then we'll discuss that, how we'll handle that.
Okay.
So Kathleen, you got your
Yes,
TCB?
I'm ready.
Okay, how did you rate developer experience and capacity?
Highly advantageous.
And any comments about that?
No, I thought they had a solid team. Certainly they've got the experience. Yeah, no, I found them to be, solid.
Okay, and affordability.
They met the affordability criteria in the RFP,
To give
so
me,
highly advantageous.
okay. Site design.
I have it in front of me right now,
Mhm.
and I'm still a little
On the fence.
non-committed to the site design from them. So I'm just gonna say A, advantageous.
Okay, how about infrastructure and green design?
H, highly advantageous.
And building design.
Again, I'm a little on the non-committed side from them. Harry used a term on Wednesday, not quite fleshed out. So I'm gonna use that term today with regard to their building design. Again, I have it in front of me. And I know these are conceptual plans. They're not the actual design plans. So I'm just gonna go A, advantageous.
Mhm. Okay. All's very close in line with what we did. Do you have the final tally there? You know what, before we do that, I think we could possibly do the last category now.
The references, yeah. Mhm.
Referencing site visits and interviews.
Yes,
Yeah,
So on references, I'm gonna go highly advantageous.
On TCB or all of them or a different one?
All of them
Okay,
for me.
okay. Well, let's, since we're on TCB, do people feel they've had time to think about that? Or we can, we can go around for a first go anyway.
yeah, okay, Elaine, I guess my take is that all of these were really strong references. There really wasn't anybody that flagged an issue, and frankly, I'd rate all three developers' references as highly advantageous.
Anybody else have anything differing from that in your mind? I would agree with that.
This is
So-
Jim. I agree with it as well.
Okay. That's just references you're talking about,
Yeah.
Harry? Yeah.
Yes, just references.
Okay. So we're all good with an H on references.
Well, what about,
Yeah. Interviews.
Gary's got his hand up,
Hey,
so.
Gary.
I think it was Olga who said, why are you calling me? Why don't you call Provincetown?
no,
Me, Jan.
I said that.
Jan, excuse me. But I wonder if, that when we call the references that they give us, we're pretty sure to get H on all of those.
Right.
Honestly, if they got this far and they didn't have good references, it would be suspect.
I didn't want to say anything at that point, Gary, when Jan brought that up, but I do have some inside information that Provincetown was a little less than.
Well, before you go
yeah.
there, Kathleen, I just wondered if we should arbitrarily pick a couple of developments and just call the town. I'm sure we could get a contact in the town or something related to the housing to get another perspective. I just raise it as a question since, there's no differentiation in this.
Right.
And as I say, most of it will be self-fulfilling.
Right.
In Civico's case, Gary, I called every development that they've done or completed. So I don't have anyone left to call at this point.
Right, no, I just raised it, I just offered as an opinion, should we do that? A question.
Thoughts on that? Olga?
Could we be clear that what Kathleen was reporting on was Civico? Because I'm not sure we actually said the developer's name.
Yeah, I did several times.
So Civico
Yeah,
Yes.
in your final evaluation. Okay.
in my report on Wednesday.
No, I'm talking about your giving highly advantageous, that evaluation.
That was.
I'm not sure it was said who she's talking about for purposes of this meeting.
I
mean-
gave all three developers highly advantageous on regard to references.
Okay, I'm not talking about
Olga's question-
references, your evaluation.
I think Olga's references to the evaluations you gave on TCB at the beginning of the meeting,
Yeah,
just
What
to be
about it?
clear that when we were talking about a development team, affordability, site design, infrastructure, and building,
mm-hmm,
caught up with you, that was on the community builders?
yes,
Correct.
Okay, that's just, I think let's
Okay,
just
I wasn't-
confirm that.
yes. I had done 2 on Wednesday and this was the third, yeah.
Yep. Okay. I have on occasion, when I've had employment applications in front of me,
Mm,
called people that were not on the reference list,
Mhm,
and sometimes I got a different picture.
mhm.
And at least one occasion, I got the different picture really to my detriment after the hiring decision had been made.
That's correct. Harry.
So
I remember that.
without going into specifics or naming names, I found out after the hiring decision that there had been a tumultuous work relationship at the prior place of employment. I don't have a problem with calling someone other than the list of references that we've been given, because Gary's correct. Generally, you get uniformly, consistently positive references that applicants provide in almost any endeavor.
Mhm. Okay. Well, we certainly have an identifiable one in Province Landing that we could call for TCB.
I think if you're going to do that, you should probably do it for all three of
Right.
them.
Right,
Right.
I agree.
I will not have time to do that for TCB,
I
Elaine.
understand.
And I would like to add that I did call John Riley, who wasn't a reference, and he had a glowing
Right.
report.
And that was on the POA one, right?
That was on POA for Tory Woods,
Yeah, I mean, it was a reference they gave on their page for
but it
that.
was
but-
one of the projects that they had done. Yeah.
I don't know if we can identify one for POA that would fit
Yeah,
this. But that was, Olga did contact one that wasn't on their, the list of 3 or 4 references that they gave. So we may have that covered for POA.
yeah.
And
And so for Civico, I think there might be ones that are in progress, not finished, that we could call.
Is that in Worcester, the little house development,
Tiny
Yeah.
house.
tiny
Tiny
house?
Yeah,
I spoke to them.
right. And they weren't on, were they on the list of 3?
Yes.
They were, yeah, they were one of the 3 references. They have. There are projects in newer projects, the Coolidge Schoolhouse, LaGrange Mill Lofts in Worcester, The LaGrange Mill Lofts is a 90% affordable development of 75 units. Their start date was in the second quarter of 2020 and finishing in 2024. So it's in process, but there's, they've gone through some of the really important steps.
So the person that I spoke to in Worcester was familiar with that project as well. They're the town planner for the city of Worcester,
Mhm.
and mentioned, well, I didn't say this in my original report, but they had worked with our other two contenders, POA and TCB. And they felt Civico in their dealings with Civico up into the project you're just referencing now, that they were far more interactive and responsive, much more on hands. And that was, again, I used the term on Wednesday, it was the whole team. So I don't know if there's another individual in the city of Worcester that's going to give me a different opinion, but certainly the person I spoke to in the city of Worcester, who's the town city planner, gave them a very and she said, these were affordable projects, with tax credits. So
Well,
May I make a suggestion, Elaine, is that we've heard from four of us about our reaction to the references that we've already heard, and maybe we should complete that. We're not going to make a final decision on selecting, on recommending a developer
That's a
to the
good
select
idea.
board today.
Right.
So there's still time for, people to unearth additional information from other sources that we could, stir into the mix when we make our final decision.
okay, yeah. I think that's a good idea, since we had started down that path. And so we were talking about references, just the references part of that
Yep.
last block.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think it was Gary,
Anyone-
Olga, Jan, and Jay that we hadn't heard from.
Okay, so just on references for TCB or for all of them, if you have an overall. So,
H for
Jan.
references on all three.
mhm. Gary,
H.
was it Olga that you said we had?
Olga and Jay, I think, are the other two.
Jay, you're muted.
Oh,
Yeah, H for me.
Okay, so that's for all three. How about interviews? Harry?
I was, I guess is that a reference back to performance, back to the presentations we had, I guess?
Mhm.
As it does say, presentations will not be
Oh,
scored.
that's
so
right, that's
quite-
right.
I'm not
That's
quite sure how
Right.
that
Yeah.
is supposed to work out.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So
So, and we
They were
didn't
all
actually,
There weren't any other interviews, right?
right.
no, so it's kind of interesting that that's in there, even
Yeah.
though,
Well,
yeah. And I sort of feel the same possible way with site visits. I mean, Kathleen and I are hoping to go see the Civico project in Lincoln, waiting to set that up. But we could also potentially do a video tour of one of their other projects if we felt we wanted to. We've seen 2 TCB and 1 POA. So I sort of feel like the references we can certainly rate from what we've heard. The site visits, if we We got a lot of information from the ones we did that helped us, I think, with part of our evaluations,
Right.
but we could hold that one off to see if Kathleen and I get that opportunity.
Mhm.
So are we waiting to meet somebody at Oriole Landing in Lincoln or?
I put in a request to schedule something, so waiting to.
I could call back the town planner
Mhm,
who worked with them through the permitting process on
mhm,
that project in Lincoln,
mhm.
to see if she could meet us there. I don't know if we'll get to see a unit inside, but you know, I don't know. I mean, that's the only reference I have to
Mhm.
try and
Well,
contact somebody up there.
Well, let me make a
Um,
phone call first, because
Okay,
Taylor had reached out to offer to set something up, and I just contacted him about it. So I'd love if one other person could go, but I know it's a long haul. Gary, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just want, you mentioned one for POA, and we actually did stop at Melpet
Mhm,
Farms.
mhm.
So I don't know if that qualifies as a site visit or, you know, and for the sake of consistency, do we want to actually make a formal request there? I was very impressed with the site, but
Mhm,
we
mhm.
didn't have the same interview that we had at the others.
Yeah, I think it can count as part of
Sure.
our.
And I think we've done our due diligence.
Okay, well, let's then say we, on references, we're H all across the board. We'll see what Kathleen and I can work out, and I'll contact you. And if anybody else wants to come along for the ride, more than welcome. So let's talk, Jan, your thoughts about your.
Okay, so you like me just to tell you what, I've been thinking and thinking and thinking. And I go back and forth, as I'm sure we all do. I think all three of these were very worthy proposals. But in my opinion, none of them were fully compliant with our RFP. Therefore, the making a decision means you have to overlook X or Y or Z, depending on what your bend is. I would love to combine all three of these and take the best parts of each of the three, and we have this magnificent project. But since they're not going to let me do that, one of the most important things to me, and that's why as you go back and forth with all the different parts, I feel strongly that our vision for this project was to give homes to people who truly cannot afford to live in Wellfleet, but they work here and they do all kinds of good services here for our community. And so the one project that had the largest number of units for that category was POA. And so as much as I hate that great big building, I have chosen POA. And I would hope that abutters will be able to manage the idea of a big building like that in their neighborhood, because that's the risk. And it's also a risk that they can't get a 40B variance for the height of that building. So, but everybody will need some kind of variance. And as much as I love the beauty of Civico, this problem with access to the tower and so forth, I think is it's not explained. So again, Laura told us we can't pick something that we expect then they're going to fix. And so anyway, That's my long and short of it. I think POA, it's community idea. It's on-site management. I mean, it could go on about all the things that are positive, but that's my choice.
I think there's a good chance we won't make our final decision until after you come back, but I think, appreciate getting this, because you have been so involved, you've been so involved all the way
Yeah,
along
thank
that
you.
we certainly want to factor that in. I would like to have another meeting with Laura present to help us clarify some of we had a few questions that I think need clarification. I would almost ask Kathleen, how long is the section from the toolbox on selecting a developer?
Oh, God, Elaine, no, I can't find it.
Okay.
Uh,
It's online. I mean, we can,
Yeah.
we can
Yeah, we can all review that,
provide
um,
a link after the fact.
right?
It's,
Yeah,
and after this, after this, even after we select a developer, there's still forms and certifications. That's part of, what we'll need to go through, but it does, I don't think it says actually,
okay. Well,
how long.
Yeah, we can certainly review that. As Harry said, it's online and we can send that out to everybody. The few questions that we had that came up from the three, reviewing the three on the past two meetings was it was felt that we still need to clarify the ownership relation for CDP with POA. We needed to confirm underground utilities, only TCB actually stated that in their proposal, as far as I could see. We wanted to kind of see the site plan and how the whole site plan and how these three actually sat on it. We had the question about how solar affects tenant utilities and owner costs. And we still don't have our financial questions to follow up with financial references. I don't know if any of those we want to keep digging on, or if we feel they're of a kind that will get worked out further along in the process.
Well, I guess, Elaine, I think the underground utilities will get dealt with as part of the permitting process.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been required by Wellfleet subdivision control laws for years, even though this is not a subdivision.
Mhm.
The solar, I certainly would be interested in knowing. I'm not sure that it's necessarily a deal breaker, since most of the tax credit housing is rents are capped and rents include heat, as I understand it. So it almost doesn't much matter to the tenant. Ownership would be interesting, but I guess, it wouldn't bother me if POA was the sole owner. It probably wouldn't bother me if CDP was the sole owner. So if they've divided the pie up some way in between, I'm not sure I'm going to be bothered by that either. If I may, on financials, I did reach out to Andrew Singer to see if he had a reference he could offer. I've known Andrew for decades. He's out of the office until Tuesday. I'm sure I'll get a call back, but it won't be until Tuesday. I called Kevin McGuire, left a message on voice message this morning, and perhaps he'll call me back. I don't know. And I emailed Emily Achtenberg, who I see is on our Zoom call right now. I haven't had a chance to follow up with a phone call, but she's here now. Other than that, I don't have anything to report in terms of a proposal from anybody. So we're still in the wind on that.
Yeah.
Elaine, I just found, I'm going to interject. I'm not hoping to go off the map here. We did a community forum, Jan, the 6th of January, 2020 at the COA building. And we heard questions and concerns from the community. It was very well attended. I would suggest all the committee members take a look at this again and check the boxes on how your vote for a developer checks off with questions and concerns that we got. Because I guess going forward, my biggest concern is not so much, you know, who we pick, but how that developer is going to be able to fit in with the neighborhood and the surrounding area. To get back to something Harry just mentioned with regard to CDP and POA's partnership, I am concerned. I have great concern about that relationship, because what if there's a falling out between the two parties? Where does that put this? You know, what if after a year or two, something goes completely south in that relationship? You got to understand, this is a very unique partnership between POA and CDP. There isn't another project or developer that we can say that reference that this is how this is worked. Management company is one thing. You know, if you don't like a management company, you can hire another one. But this is a very you know, significant partnership between these two entities, and it's something that, you know, has yet to be proven if it works to me. So
I think we've heard that POA, this is something POA does and has done it with Hack very successfully. I don't share that concern myself. I think, you know,
Concern?
clarifying something a little bit, a little more wouldn't hurt. But as POA's years of experience, I think would know how to manage anything that might come up that needed attention. But they, you know, they have worked with Hack in exactly the same way, very successfully on other projects, because they like to identify local people, just like Civico went out and identified really local people to have on their team, you know, trying to,
right.
you know, orient.
It's a complicated business, I think. You know, we're talking about sort of meeting of the construction business and the management and you know, the management business. And there's a lot of moving parts. You know, predicting the future is going to be very difficult for any one of these people, I think. What if the partners on one of the other developers that we picked, and they have a falling out? I mean, you know, stuff happens, you know, so I'm not too worried about the future. I think we got to deal more what's in front of us.
Yeah, I had two observations. One of them is it's very, very common for significant development projects to have these kind of single entity organizations where there's a developer and maybe the contractor's got a piece of it, and maybe the group that provided the financing is part of its loan, part of its ownership. So these things happen all the time. And, you know, there are falling outs within, you know, between groups in a partnership, and between partners or owners in organizations. And, you know, I think that it happens pretty much without regard to the actual structure on paper of the organization. The Civico, as I recall, I think has two partners as in that firm.
Yeah.
You know, the potential for a falling out is present in, I think, all of these organizations, and it's inherently unknowable what the future will be here. So I guess I don't have a basis for being overly concerned about that.
Olga?
I have a question about prevailing wages, and let's be clear from the start whether they are part of it or not.
They are not.
They are not. That's why
Whatever. Okay.
That's why
Yeah.
the town doesn't develop it, why we pick a private. And developer to do it because they're not compelled by that.
And that was through a recent town meeting vote or the select board?
No,
No? Okay.
no, basically, if the town,
Oh, I see. It's not the town entity. Yeah.
if it's not really a town project, we've separated ourselves enough from the means and methods of the project so that it's not our project. We're going to lease the land to the developer with a land disposition agreement, and they're going to do it. And our only string is that we can hold them to the terms of that lease and that development agreement.
What about low-income housing credits? Does that federal
Again,
piece make for, just checking?
yeah, again, Wellfleet as a town doesn't pay income taxes, so tax credits have no value to the town. So the only way to take advantage of those tax credits is to have a developer be the entity that does it. The same reason that the solar farm by the dump is done with a lease and a private developer is that they can use the tax credits to offset part of the cost. If it's developed privately, we can't as a municipality.
Got it.
There's two reasons why we did it, why everybody does it this way.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Gary?
Yeah, I just, for the sake of clarity, there's a difference between a partnership and a subcontractor, both in legal and in terms of the actual operation. But can Elaine or maybe Rebecca's like, can we just send a letter to the three to ask them to disclose any partnerships that they are proposing for this and get a clear answer as to what it is? And then we can, whatever people's concerns are, we'll have the facts in front of us and it'll be a non-issue. We're not speculating. So can we at this point, I guess that's my question. Can we ask clarifying questions at this point?
Well, yeah, I mean, Becky may know the answer to that. That was something I wanted to run by Laura so that we
Okay,
could.
either way, if we
follow
could
up.
find out, and if in fact we can, I mean, my general concern is this is our one shot, man. We, unlike other bigger municipalities, I don't know that we'll have another project like this. And we want to do everything we can to get it right. And to the extent that we can disclose information that may or may not be material, I don't know if it is, but if we can still ask questions, I'd like to ask that question.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that was something I wanted to find out from Laura about that.
So I think we're on the same page.
Right. One of my questions that started coming up was about the wastewater project, and that is going to be a town project, right?
Yes.
So won't it be the town's job to work with a developer to site that and kind of a collaboration to figure out, because most people except, I think it was TCB, was the only proposal that showed a potential siting of the building. But isn't that going to be more a decision with the town and the developer together, since it's a town project?
Elaine, the answer is yes to that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm working from home today, so yeah, the answer is yes. That is more of a town. The town is taking the lead on that project. Maybe they just showed it for conceptual purposes. I guess that would be another clarifying question, or making sure that they have clarity on it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think Civico showed a conceptual.
We
where
weren't
they-
sure. We weren't sure if that's what that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Gary?
no, just a light bulb went off. Is that the little building in center field that they were showing?
Oh, I thought that was the washing machines.
Right. Again,
So-
if we can ask questions. it
We
would
don't
be-
know. We
Right.
don't
What
know.
is that little building? Harry, have you tallied up our things that we have so far now?
Let's see. It looks like, I don't know if you can all see this.
Oh.
But so what I've done is for each developer, I've tallied the three categories. So you can see, for example, highlighted is the one for Civico. This is the one for POA and CDP. And this is the one for TCB. So you can see how the categories are ranked together. So, if you try and rank these in some way, probably I think the ranking comes out with POA and CDP on top and TCB second and Civico third. That last column, this column is just a checksum, so you can ignore that. Just to make sure I haven't, they all have to add up to the same thing. So that's what I've got. I can provide this to Elaine so she can send it around.
Yes, I'd like a copy of that if possible.
Yeah. I
Yep.
spelled feasibility wrong. Yeah. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'll fix that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Now that would be great to have that, and it looks like we are, heading towards a decision, but I think, I'd like to share that with Laura and say, this is where we are, is any deeper process that we want to go through. I mean, the financials, we're dealing with a couple people that have a fair amount of experience, so I don't know what will happen if, it would be a shame to have to wait too long on that. But yeah, Harry, do send this around.
Yep.
And we will dig in deeper and with maybe close to finality at a upcoming our meeting. Do we want to invite Emily to say anything?
Well, I'd certainly, if she would like to participate, I'd certainly invite her to.
Yeah. Hi, Emily.
Where did my,
Hi.
Hello.
okay,
I'm,
stop the sharing. Here we go.
Sorry.
There we go. Sorry.
Right.
Emily, could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Emily Ochtenberg, I am a part-time Wellfleet resident, though currently in Jamaica Plain in my real home. I am an affordable housing consultant, have been for about 4 decades. And so I'm, as a Wellfleet citizen, I'm super interested in this project. I think it's so great, the work you've been doing, and it's so much needed, very exciting. And I'm wrestling with my schedule and my desire to have my happy fall unblemished by tons of work in Wellfleet, to think about whether I would respond to the RFQ. So I wanted to just hear a little bit about what you're thinking. I'm quite familiar with 2 of the 3 proposers. I've worked with both of them, POA and TCB. Civico, I don't know. But I'm familiar with the programs that they're discussing, and I'm thinking about, whether I can help or not.
Okay.
But I appreciate the work you're doing. I think it's great.
Well, thank you very much for considering it, and it would be a huge help if you could, but understand that, yeah. Understand.
I guess, can I ask one question on that? My quick response when I looked at the proposals is, I would want to get more information from them before, doing an analysis. I think that pretty much only POA gave detailed numbers. So I'll get back to you, Harry. Maybe it would be the way to discuss, to figure out what a process would be. In other words, I wouldn't want to do an evaluation until I had the more detailed information from them. It doesn't make sense. But I can give you a call later.
Okay. Well, thank you for.
That would be fine.
Thank you for introducing yourself. It's really nice to meet you. It's amazing the resources we have right here in Wellfleet. So we look forward to seeing more of you. Thank you so much. Okay, Rebecca's back.
Yep.
Um,
Anything else we need to do today?
Jay has a question.
Yep, Jay.
As long as we're talking about more information, something I might have mentioned when we first met after we got these, is that none of these people showed anything even close to a section through the site, from the upper section to the lower section, that shows maybe in a little bit more detail how they plan to deal with that design-wise, because it's not going to go away unless you fill the whole thing in, and maybe that's what they plan to do. I have no idea. But it is something that's there.
I'm not sure I understand.
You
Well,
mean,
the site has it has an upper portion and a lower portion,
Mhm.
heading down to Long Pond Road,
right,
where the COA building is. And it's hard for me to really compare the proposals with how they're dealing with that, because they're all kind of, nobody's really taking it head on and showing how they plan to. But maybe that's it for after we pick somebody. I don't know. But as long as we're talking about more information, I thought it was appropriate to bring it up.
Mhm.
Yeah, there is some topographic stuff in at least one of them. I'm looking through in two of them. It's hard to know whether that's just reporting on the existing topography. I suspect that's the case, but
Yeah.
both TCB shows
There's one of them
contours.
that shows like a retaining wall of some sort.
That's
Mhm.
Poa.
But it's just shown on the plan. It doesn't,
Yeah, and
it's just hard to.
yeah, and there are contours on, oh gosh. This desk is too small for this project. On this TCB and on POA, they show them, but I'm guessing that those are existing contours.
Yeah, they are.
Did we lose Elaine?
I don't think so.
I had to feed the cat so she wouldn't keep bumping into the meeting.
Yes.
I would like to respond to Harry's question, if that's okay, about what we could do. And if we can ask questions, I've been sort of making a list of the things that I'd like to know more about based upon our discussions and the presentations and our site visit. And is that an assignment we would do for another meeting? Or could we do that today, is to make a list of, here are the clarifying questions we have, or here are the, could we get more information about?
We can certainly make the list. Whether we're able to
Yeah.
keep
So
doing that or not is a question.
I'll start it, and then others, obviously, please jump in. But we heard these things from various places, various times. Is it always non-smoking now in developments, or is that a decision by the developer?
Don't know.
The same thing with respect to pets. Are
Mhm.
pets allowed or not allowed?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Harry mentioned heat being included. I don't think we heard that. So I'd like to have clarity on what utilities are included in the rent and which ones are not, and then what would be the cost to the individual. We discussed at our site visits a number of times whether Wi-Fi was provided.
Mhm.
And I don't remember that I have a straight answer from the three, whether that was included in their development. The same thing true for recycling. I didn't hear anything specifically from some of them about recycling. So I think it's important to the town. So I think I'd like to know more about that. I'd sure like to know more about storage options. And Jan, since you'll be away, washer dryers. But no, we have talked many times about that being
right,
a critical element. And the same thing for, is it clear now that all of them are proposing AC, air conditioning, as part of their proposal or not?
all these things are interesting, Gary. I think though, when it comes down to picking, you have to decide the few elements that are the most important to you. And I can't
Right.
imagine that it's going to be recycling, no matter how important that is to the town.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to encourage all those good things with the one group that we ask to do the job for us. But I don't know that we decide on
And-
that basis, right?
You're right, Jan. I mean, I just made a list of the things that we
Yeah.
came across in ours, and others can add or subtract from that list. But I have a general question then is, so once we pick developer, can we then negotiate all those things or specify all those things?
I hope so.
Guess that's a question for Laura.
Yeah, that's a question I have, is what leeway do we have?
Yeah, I was gonna mention that if in fact we develop a list, we should probably run it by Laura, because I had the impression from her that there's some questions that you can ask and some that you
No,
can't.
I don't know. Right.
Yeah, and I'm not sure either, you know.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
okay, I'm sorry.
I'm actually really glad you mentioned Wi-Fi, Gary, because early on I had identified that as something really important, and we didn't really ask about it at all. I've read about wonderful developments where their solar energy helped pay for the Wi-Fi, you know, high-speed internet for the tenants. You know, I think that's something, if you're looking at equality.
And all these are quality of life for the residents there. So,
Yeah.
I personally, I think a lot of it's just a given that people are gonna have Wi-Fi and that they're gonna have recycling bins. I think it's just a given, you know, in the culture that we're in today, but maybe not.
I think it's, you know, this is a great list. I'll send Laura our preliminary evaluation score sheet and these questions. And she's been off this week. I really hope she could join us at Wednesday's meeting. And if not, schedule another one where she can attend. Anything else for today?
So our next meeting is Wednesday next week
Yes,
at 11 o'clock, I think.
right, yes.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'll miss you all.
Yeah, have a wonderful time, Dan. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
while you're having a wonderful time, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, bye, everybody. I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.